Hello and welcome back. Meet the new updated Chance sequencer. Chance is a Max for Live MIDI device and a stochastic sequencer that creates complex musical ideas within constraints that you control. I received a ton of positive feedback on the first version, along with ideas for new features, and in this video I'm going to walk you through all the new features that come with version 2. If you're new to Chance, you can check out my previous video in the link above where I walk through the primary features of the device, but for today, let's dig into the 6 new features that come with the update. Okay, so here I have a set with some clips I've been working on. I've added 2 tracks, one with Chance sequencing an external eurorack synth, and another sequencing a virtual instrument. One feature I added with this update is the clock control. If you click this button, it extends the window to show additional controls for the clock. Right now, the clock is set to sync to the Ableton tempo. If I select manual, you can see the rhythm controls switch to number values instead of rhythms, and you can manually adjust the delay times of each of the 5 parameters. You can change the delay times from short, medium, or long, so short is up to 1,000 milliseconds, medium is 1,000 to 10,000 milliseconds, long being 10,000 to 100,000 milliseconds. This is particularly useful if you're making ambient or generative music. I'll do a demo of that later, but for today we're going to stick to the synced tempo control to Ableton. I'll switch back to the track sequencing plats and start sketching out some rhythm and note probabilities. I'll adjust the note ranges to make some random notes that sound interesting. And I'll turn on a drum track here to give a sense of time. Another new feature added is the 8th and 16th note swing. It's fairly straightforward. You can get a standard 8th note swing if you turn the value up. I'll add some quarter and 8th notes to highlight it. I also included a 16th note swing. Having both the 8th and 16th note swings can give you control and flexibility to add a little bit more life to the phrases, with the notes not falling dead on but instead slightly off, making it feel more like a real person playing. Another new feature is loop. This allows you to freeze a phrase in time, looping 1 to 8 bars of an idea. Here with just 1 bar looping, you can hear what I mean. Yes, this will work. I'm going to expand my drum loop a bit, opening up the low pass filter. I have a few textures here I'll add as well. And if I change the length of the loop from 1 to 2, it adds a second bar to the first. If I extend it out, it doesn't erase the first few bars of the loop, it simply extends the phrase, giving you a chance to switch back and forth on the fly. It's sort of like adding a counterpoint to the original melody. Alright, I'm going to turn Chance off on this track for a second and jump to the next. What I want now is a chord that plays on the downbeat every 4th bar, and I want the chord to be a little bit different each time. Switching to this track, I have the felt instrument's Echo, which is a wonderful textured piano sound. I'll set the whole note probability to 100% so it triggers a note on the downbeat of the bar, and I'll start adding in some notes. I'll dial in the range a bit. And I want this to be a chord, not individual notes, so I'll increase the chord probability to 100%. But if you notice it's playing every bar, I want it to be more sparse, playing every 4th bar. That brings me to the next new feature. I added a clock divider feature here. I'll wait for the chord to play on the downbeat, and then change this to 4. Now a chord plays every 4th bar. And the voicing of each chord is just a little bit different, adding life and movement to the track. I'm going to send this track to an aux that has the buckets delay, Just for fun, I'm going to use an LFO on the drift knob of buckets to create a little bit of chorusing in the delay. It'll pull the pitch of the delayed signal up and down slightly, just like it would if you turn the delay knob on an analog delay. Alright, so let's go back to plats again. Another new feature here is the LFO in the pop-up window. It's ping-ponging around in the display in a way that can automate the probability of notes. In this case, adding some notes that are familiar, but also some that aren't, in a way that creates some interesting tension. You can also adjust the speed of the LFO. Alright, I'm going to turn off that LFO for a minute, and I'll adjust the note probabilities to more of a stable spot. The last feature I added is an overall LFO control. By clicking here, it expands two LFOs, each mappable to the different note and rhythmic probabilities. You can just draw in the amount of LFO you want applied to each one, and you can see these two notes with their probabilities automated now. This button inverts the LFO, so now the two notes are moving in opposite directions but mapped to the same LFO. If you want to get fancy, you can apply the second LFO to the same note, creating a more complex wave shape by essentially summing the two LFOs. Okay, but I'm going to use this for something a little bit different. You can turn off the LFO applied to notes by clicking the note name. I'm going to apply LFO 1 to the 16th note rhythmic probability. If you hold Shift while clicking, you can add to the range you've already drawn. I'm going to add some modulation to the 8th notes as well. And this will modulate how often busier phrases are being played. Again, I'm just trying to add some movement and spontaneity to the track rather than just a hard fixed sequence. I'm going to add some notes back in to create a more interesting phrase. Last but not least, I'll turn on my bass clip here. There you go. So 6 new features added to Chance. If you like it, you can download it from the link in the description below. And if you like this video, please let me know and be sure to click subscribe. Thanks again to everyone who provided feedback in the last version. I really appreciate it. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.